So if I can step my phone down.
Yeah, that's all fine. So you can both hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Alright, good. Alright, so gonna do my little intro and we'll get officially started. Alright. Hello everyone, welcome to the Putover Podcast. I'm excited to be doing episode 2 of season 3. I'm pretty specifically excited for this episode as I am a huge National Wrestling Alliance fan. I've seen every episode to date. And we're doing it with the best kept secrets in tag team wrestling, Jeff Neal and Tyson Dean. Jeff, Tyson, how are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing just great. I am very excited, but I'm toning down my little intros. I've been told they're getting a little loud.
hey, the louder the better. That's how you get over, brother.
That's how you get over, brother. All right, I'm very excited to have you guys on. So we're going to start kind of slow because I want to help you guys make your case, I guess, for why the fans of Circle Squared should pick you. So we're going to start piece by piece and just kind of go through my little list here. I've got a good list going on. So we're going to start off nice and simple. One at a time, how did you guys get into the wrestling business? Let's start with you, Jeff.
Well, I was a fan my whole life. I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, and I went to all the matches every Monday night with Jim Crockett Promotions. They would hold the event at the old Greenville Memorial Auditorium. It was quoted as the house that Flair built, and it was another term for it, the old brown box, because it was perfect for wrestling. It was a perfect wrestling venue. If you talk to anybody that wrestled during the Jim Crockett era, for Jim Crockett Promotions, that was the perfect place to wrestle. Every Monday night they would go there, and I was there constantly in the front row or during ringside. I was there, and and I just remember specifically my very first show. It's like burnt into my brain from the opening match to the main event. The main event was Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes for the 10 pounds of gold, the NWA World Heavyweight title, and that just was burnt in my brain at 4 years old, believe it or not, going to the matches. And so from then on, I became interested in amateur wrestling, where here in South Carolina, I was a 2-time South Carolina State Wrestling Champion, and I ended up going to the Nationals twice and qualifying for the NCAA Division II championship tournament, where, ironically, the same college that AJ Styles went to, and he was actually leaving as I was coming in, and so that's how we never crossed paths going there. But it was really really cool because you heard about him while he was there, how good of an amateur wrestler he was. And then fast forward after that, that's how I got involved in professional wrestling. I knew a promoter named Brody Chase, and Brody taught me the art of pro wrestling. And Brody was a former jobber and enhancement talent for Jim Crockett Promotions and for WCW. And from then on, I got hooked up with Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster, who taught me not just more of the art, but the psychology of the wrestling business.
Oh god, I love hearing about Kevin Sullivan. Oh man, I wish we could do this podcast for like 3 hours and just talk about Kevin Sullivan.
I mean, hearing some of Papa Kev's stories are great, and being on the road with him like I have been for a while it's been a true treat to be able to pick his brain and to know. And a lot of times, like what I found out is, like, if he doesn't talk to you like he's yelling at you or whatever, then he doesn't like you. And so a lot of times, like when you get the lectures from him, it's like, do you understand what I'm talking about? So those are great. I love Papa Kev. Shout out to Kevin.
Shout out to Kevin. All right. And Tyson, your turn. How did you get into the wrestling business? I understand you two started in different scenes, so to speak.
Yeah, but similar to Jeff, I grew up watching the NWA 605 on Saturday nights and Sundays. My grandfather was actually the first person to introduce me to wrestling, and some of the first guys that I remember watching were Ivan and Nikita, and Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, the Horsemen. And I was just hooked from day one. The first time I saw it, I was enamored with it, and just fell in love from there. I didn't have got an amateur wrestling background. It's not as wasn't as decorated as Jeff's. I did. And as an amateur wrestler, jiu-jitsu, sambo. Was a silver medalist in the Georgia Games in 2005, middleweight boxing, and then got into professional wrestling. I was coaching football and ran into a buddy of mine that I played ball with, and he had a small promotion and everything, and came to a few shows and sought out a guy that trained me, someone Jeff knows pretty well, Crew Jones.
Oh, yeah.
And then from there, got training through Jimmy Ray and Greg Michaels and Rob Conway, and most recently learned a lot by getting to be a coach at Luke Gallows School here in Atlanta. And so that was kind of my path into starting off into professional wrestling.
I was actually, so I was going to save this for later, but I met someone who wanted to be known as an anonymous fan, but he says he knows you two pretty well, and actually told me to ask more about Crew Jones and Luke Gallows' school. So if you'd like to pontificate on that.
Okay.
Pontificate is such a huge word.
Yeah, I was going to say.
First one that came to mind. Hand of God.
Let's keep it to words we can spell. Yeah, so Gallows, I guess he and I have been friends for about 10 years, and he was going to open a school a while back with Joey Mercury. It was going to be called Bulletproof Dojo, and just a couple of things happened there that kept that one from getting off the ground, so it was kind of on hold for a while. And then Luke and I were talking one day, and he said, I still want to do the school thing, and I want you to be, I'd like for you to be a coach. And, I was a little hesitant at first because I'm always not sure of my abilities in ring, but maybe not always so sure of my ability to coach. And, but I enjoyed it a lot. It was something that we did. I'm not able to coach now, just, some things over the past year took me away from that. And but we had a really good group of guys there, and Luke and those guys are still doing it. He's got Mike Taylor there as a coach now, and Fry Daddy, and there's a good group of people there. And so I learned a lot. It helped by teaching the people that we had starting off there. It improved me a lot.
I believe what I was told, Jeff Lewis, Neal, you also train with at Austin Idol School, or are a trainer.
Yes, actually, we're about to be open. Where Austin, he lives here in Greenville, and he reached out to me because, ironically enough, I've known Austin for probably about 10 years now. And the funny thing is that Austin saw me wrestle, I want to say 2 years ago. Never saw me wrestle. And he came up to me as soon as he watched me wrestle because we were on the same show. And the second that he saw me on the card, he came up and he says, "Jeff, I'm sorry. I have to apologize to you." And I was, "Whoa! You didn't do anything." And so, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but he was like, "That match was so good." He goes, "I had no idea," and which was a huge compliment from somebody, from Austin Idol, especially from somebody who legit had made their name, not just in Memphis, but he was Iron Mike McCord up in the WWF with Vince Sr., and he, broke his teeth down in Florida with Eddie Graham, Hiro Matsuda, the Briscoes. He really, became someone in the wrestling business, feuding with Jerry Lawler and, people like that of name value. And so yes, the school's about to be open next month, and the big announcement that came out is that we just signed to be a student at the school, Dada 5000 from Bellator. And so he's going to be coming in to train at the Austin Idol Universal Wrestling College.
Really?
Yes.
That's kind of incredible. It's always exciting to see stars from other sports trying to try new things, and especially wrestling, because it's one of the most unique things out there. There really just isn't anything like wrestling.
Indeed, and wrestling itself it's the oldest sport known to man. Tyson can agree with this as well as I can. It's one of the most rewarding sports as well. But as the great Dan Gable used to say, wrestling is a life game, and it teaches you how to get off your back. And because life is going to put you on your back constantly, wrestling teaches you how to get off your back.
I remember a quote from a documentary I saw made about the entire history of pro wrestling, and they were talking about that being the oldest sport known to man, and the guy said, well, some people argue that running is older, but I doubt cavemen solved their differences with a foot race.
Very true. Very true.
Oh man, I love plugging that doc.
That was a good one. I think that documentary you're talking about was on the History Channel, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I don't remember the specific name, though I've seen it a million times. The name always escapes me.
It was a very good one.
It was a good one.
That was always my thing about it, was like, Jeff and I each played a lot of team sports, but like wrestling and boxing, that was always on me. I mean, in any other sport, somebody can drop a pop fly, or they can miss a pass or miss a shot or something like that. And wrestling, it's just me and you. Either I work hard enough to get a win at the end of the day, or I don't. And we win and we celebrate, we lose and we get better. It just gives you more to work hard, a bigger goal for the next time.
And as the great Bobby Heenan said, if all else fails, cheat.
Oh, do I? I actually myself have an amateur background. That was what I was doing in high school. Couldn't quite find my place, but then it just hit me like, oh, I'll just do that. And it was instant connection. What I'm trying to get at is it's this, when you find your niche, there's this special feeling, like your place in the world for once.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hit the nail right on the head, brother.
Brother. So you guys, as I stated, you came back from different backgrounds. In fact, looking you guys up on YouTube and social media and watching as many matches as I can, I noticed that, for the most part, I found a lot of them separate. When did you guys start tag teaming? How did this come to be?
It came to be where we, ironically enough, like I was talking with Nikita about, coming together and doing a team. And Nikita was all for it. And Nikita has been a very good friend of mine for years. And just going through, trying to find the right people to do a tag team with, to get to that next level. And ironically, I've known Tyson for several years, just being in the wrestling business, but never really crossed paths in terms of wrestling against each other or teaming up, or anything. We've been on some of the same shows, but never really that bond to where we could actually come together and be a team. And once I saw, why didn't I think of him? So I reached out to Tyson, had, asked about the opportunity, would you be interested in this? And we had our first match, and when we had our first match as a team, it was almost like everything just gelled so well to where we could make this work as a team. And with Nikita by our side, coaching us through it and giving us his knowledge based upon his knowledge within tag team wrestling, and just the Koloff legacy itself that he brings to the table was a true treat to have him help guide us within the right way to become a very good tag team. And hence that's how with our tag team skills, that's how we got on the Circle Squared.
And I will get into Nikita in a minute. I wanted to save that for just a second, but before I get to that, you guys have actually been around a lot of traveled stars collectively. I compiled a short list just of some of the ones of matches I watched this morning in preparation for this interview. Collectively, I've seen you guys wrestle Jimmy Rave, Buff Bagwell, Crazy Steve, Tim Storm, and Scott Steiner.
Oh boy!
And that's just a short list that I compiled this morning.
That's the
there's more.
There is more.
There's more.
There is
Great
more.
Khali. There's a lot more.
The actual question coming from that is, what would you say that, like, over the years, getting to wrestle with these people has taught you one by one, like, you know, having match after match with these experienced men?
Tyson, you want to go first on that one?
Yeah, the thing that I learned was Rick Michaels gave me one of the best compliments I ever had coming out of a match like that. Was I got to wrestle a guy that was more traveled than myself, and as soon as I came in, he gave me a big hug, and he said, "I'm so proud of you, not only for how well you did, but because looking at that didn't look like a star versus another guy. It was two stars." And it really helped me out and taught me a lot on how to carry myself in those positions, and to not have to, I don't want to say prove myself, but that to not leave any doubt that I deserve to be. And and that's always the thing that I've kept with me, and everything that that Jeff and I were the kind of guys that, it's one of the things Circus Square has given us. It's given us the opportunity to be exposed to the world, because we can carry ourselves at that level.
Yeah, very true. I agree wholeheartedly on that. And another thing to add is that by being in the ring with guys, like Scott Steiner, for example. I mean, here's a guy who has, been around since the 80s, literally teaming up with his brother, and he's still going and still looks very, very good at, with how well he's continuing to take the sport very seriously. I mean, you got a guy there who was a multiple-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion. You got a guy there who has pretty much done it all within the industry. And for him to go out there and want to work with you and want to help you improve, not just within your in-ring work, but also your personality. Somebody like that to help you along the way is really a true treat. And learning some of the tricks of the trade, like by being in the ring, I felt like, you're under the learning tree, as they say. And and even being in the ring with guys like Billy Gunn, Billy Gunn teaching us, how to, make the audience feel that passion that that they so crave. Make the audience believe in what you're doing. Make the audience feel what you're doing. And that's just something, just some of the tidbits of learning some things from a lot of the wrestlers that we've been, both Tyson and I have been in the ring with, and it's been a true blessing to be in the ring. Like a lot of times, like we feel like, when's it going to be our chance? When's it going to be our time? But yet, I feel like God has put us in the paths of these men who have been there, done it, got the brass ring, still got it, and they're helping us along the way, teaching us more tricks of the trade. And that to me is just a true blessing by being in the ring with these guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's gotten us ready for these moments. I mean, and those guys, they teach you so much, not so much even really by what they say, but just by the little times where, and you always hear it's the little things that matter, and being in the ring with those guys and you see them do that little thing, and it makes a light bulb go off in your head, and you're like, that's smart. I'm gonna keep that. And Yeah, that was one of the coolest things. Like I've had some friendships that developed out of those matches. With I got to wrestle one time. I got an opportunity at the 10 pounds of gold whenever Rob Conway was the world champion. And before going into that, I can remember like whenever he opened his road and I saw the title that we grew up watching, and my heart stayed in my throat during all the introductions and everything. But we did the match and everything, and I talked with Rob the next night for like 4.5 hours, and that always meant a lot to me because he took the time to call me the next day, and because my in-ring was a little more cocky and arrogant and everything, and he just wanted to make sure because he liked me, he took the time to call it and share those words with me and everything to make sure that wasn't me everywhere, because of experiences that he had where that had affected him at times, because he believed in me and I thought I had a good future, and just the things that those guys, because of their travels and their seasoning and everything, taking the time with me, I could never repay that.
It's funny because while I'm now currently going into to the broadcasting world in this, or the broadcasting part of this wrestling world, I originally started this show in high school when I was trying to get into my local indies, which I did eventually. But yeah, part of the whole point of this show originally was that I wanted to learn from people and talk to them directly. So there's something special about hearing it from the people you watch, you trust that they know what they're saying. There's something that really it can't be defined properly.
Right. And another thing that I would do, which some people would kind of snicker at and kind of make fun at, was if I was on the same show, say as a Scott Steiner or a Buff Bagwell or anybody along those lines that have made it to that next level, whether it be WWE, NWA, or whatever the case may be, people that have made it to that level, I always wanted to get their number, talk to them, pick their brain. One of the best rides that I ever had in my career was my first international tour when I went to Nigeria and did a 10-day tour there, but I went with the Barbarian. But the thing was that I had to meet Barb at his house, and we had to drive from Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where he lives, to Washington, D.C., because that's where our flights were going out of. So I'm in the car with Barbarian for a good, I want to say, 4 hours, maybe 4.5, going to D.C., and just picking his brain along the way of hearing stories about, like, his feud with the Road Warriors, his feud with Demolition, just how it was to be in the ring with Hulk Hogan, of all people, and just picking his brain, like, how did you handle situations? How did you handle, if there was a guy that was in the ring that was being difficult? How did you handle working a guy that was on top of the world? Picking his brain along that way was one of the best experiences I ever had, because it's almost like a kid in a candy store. You can't get enough. I want to hear more. I want to hear more. So that was one of the best rides that I ever had, on the road.
Tyson, you got a good road trip story?
How PG's your show? No,
We're trying to keep it family friendly. I want people to see this. I'm trying to get booked, man.
There was this one time where
this one time with my wife's not. There was one funny one. I've had stories similar to what Jeff. A funny one that I always tell that comes to the top of my head is I wrestled just outside of Nashville, and we were leaving to go. I can't even remember the name of the town. It's almost in Missouri. And the lady that was driving us forgot to turn the headlights on, so we get pulled over, and sitting there, I was in the passenger seat, and the officer asks her to. And I mean, you'd have to know the lady to really appreciate how funny this is. Because, I mean, she's the most mild-mannered person in the world. Nothing really suspicious about her. The officer asks her to step in the back of the car, and she's out there for like 45 minutes. I'm like, this is crazy. And so she gets back in and she's just crying and laughing. And it was me and a guy that I was tagging with at the time. And I said, what's so funny? What's the deal? And she goes, he wouldn't let me get back in the car. And I was like, well, yeah, that was obvious by the time this elapsed. And she goes, no, he wouldn't let me get back in the car with you guys. He didn't believe that because I don't look like I fit in with you guys. And he was trying to get me to talk. He thought that, anyway, the officer thought that we had kidnapped her and were forcing her to drive us.
Wow.
And so he had held her outside the car for 45 minutes, was close to calling backup and everything else because he thought that she had the headlights off to tip him off. That was my most odd road encounter, I think.
I have a Crystal Burger story that is not PG, but it is great.
All right, let's do it. What you got?
Oh, boy, you're going to make me say it.
I guess I am.
So we did a show in Columbus, Georgia for the old Georgia Championship Wrestling, which turned into, I believe, Great Championship Wrestling. And it was myself, it was Michael Judas, and a guy named Brandon Phoenix. He used to wrestle for NWA Wildside and NWA Anarchy. Still a very good friend of mine to this day. Well, we pull into the Crystal Burger right there in Columbus because if you leave the main road in Columbus, there's really not much to go on unless you get into like the city of Columbus. So the only thing that we really wanted was the Crystal Burger because you get all the burgers and then you get the fries and you know it's delicious, especially on a cheat day. So we walk in, we give our orders, and there's these two girls that are at the front that are taking orders, and then the cook in the back is looking at them like he wants to kill them. And we're like, okay, we don't, what's going on here? But then the one girl that was at the front looks at her friend and she goes, I don't know why this sorry MFer keeps looking at us right now. He knows we're sitting here trying to F and work. And by that time, myself and Judas, we're looking at each other and we're like, what's going on here? The cook comes back. They start this big cuss fight. And it's just going back and forth. And it looks like now Brandon Phoenix is over on the side like he's sitting there thinking we're going to die in the Crystal Burger. And that's where me and Judas are sitting there kind of laughing at it because we're like, I can't believe this is actually happening right here in the Crystal Burger. And so as they're looking, the cook finally says to the girl to do him a favor, in a sense. And it was, basically do him a favor and to blank his blank.
Oof.
And so when that happened, the one girl says, I know you're not, in quote, I know you're not asking me to blank your blank, is you? You better get your mama to blank your blank. When she said that, it was almost like the whole place in unison just started busting out laughing. By that time, the manager comes out. He's clearing things out. He's like, what's going on here? What's going on here? Finally, we get our food. But Brandon Phoenix, he runs to the car because he just doesn't want anything more to happen. Me and Judas are staying there eating our fries, still watching this catastrophe still go down. And he's honking the horn. He's after, get in the car, guys, get in the car. They're going to call the cops. And we finally had to go 3.5 hours back home. But it was fun. It was a fun trip.
Death at Crystal Burger sounds like a Twilight Zone episode.
Oh, especially in Columbus.
Yeah, Columbus has some pretty shady parts to start off with.
We love you people from Columbus, Georgia.
Yeah. Columbus is a great town. See you soon.
All right. Now I can skip a little bit ahead and get to the third man.
Back on track.
The third man. So, all right. How did you guys end up with Nikita Koloff, or as you refer to him, Coach K?
I've been friends with Nikita for several years, and Nikita's just been a very good friend of mine. even through some personal situations that I was going through at the time. Just a very good friend, very good mentor, and just really an all-around good guy. And I had presented to him an idea to where I felt it could work, to where if myself and him and a partner could come together and be a team, bring a team together, and we started going around with ideas. And once we started doing that, then learning from Nikita, especially when Tyson and I started to get into tag team wrestling, learning a lot of the ways on how Ivan Koloff taught Nikita and how Don Kernodle taught Nikita.
And Crusher Khrushchev.
And Crusher Khrushchev. Once Tyson and I both started to learn from Nikita, we talk to Nikita every week. Almost like every other day, we're talking to him, picking his brain on how would you do this in this situation? Like how would you handle this? He's a very good mentor, a very good coach, and but it didn't take long for us three to come together and to really gel within the business to where we knew this could work.
And he's honest with us. I mean, that's the thing that I always appreciate is his honesty.
Yeah.
You can always tell when a coach is about to give us something we may not want to hear, because it starts with, well, guys, here's what I thought about that.
Yeah.
That's usually our, oh, well, we didn't do that. But
well, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I would have done it this way, but...
Right. But it's always, I mean, whenever he gives us that advice, it's indisputable. And it always, each time it's been something that's made us better coming out the other side of it. And he does it for that. He does it for us to be, because, I mean, it's a heavy load to bear to know that, you know, each time we're in front of an audience and we're in the ring, I mean, we're carrying his legacy. We're carrying Ivan's legacy, and that's really important to us.
I noticed. I was told about this, and then I'm now seeing it in Jeff's Skype picture. The big old hammer and sickle. Were one or both of you Russians at one point?
Well, I'll say no comment.
No comment.
But we will say in this, and Tyson knows what I'm about to say. All will be revealed in due time.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll leave that at that. Then I'll let you guys have this.
Keep your eye open.
Keeping the eye open.
I'm open because it's gonna come.
Slightly, tiny bit, gonna veer off a little bit before I get back to wrestling talk, because I watched a ton of footage of you guys today, like for hours, and I saw the crying video.
Crying video.
Jeff, you used to do radio, and you were with a gentleman called a group called the Rise Guys.
Yes. And Tyson and I were just talking about that, like literally before we were going on there. Yeah, I was involved. I'm still in radio here in Greenville, South Carolina. The show, the Rise Guys, we were number 1, 4 states, 50 counties. The male demographic 18 to 34, and the crying video was me announcing that I was going to become a father. And I think isn't that the one that you saw?
That is exactly what I saw.
Okay, so yeah, my son is now 14 months old, and
so this was recent.
Yes, this was recent, and so you know, he's running, he's walking, he's talking, he's tackling my dogs, he's doing everything. So he's going to grow up to be a a wrestler as well. I can go ahead and feel it right now. But yeah, the crying video, that was because I was announcing I was going to become a father. And so yeah, it was a true blessing. Those were tears of happiness, not tears of
You mentioned in that video that you were waiting until after the baby was born to get married. Have you tied the knot?
Haven't tied the knot yet. We're getting close, and my fiance and I we're waiting on the right time. Autumn is just best mom that I could ever imagine. You think that your first child, for both of us, it's our first child ever, and you would think that we would be just out of our minds, going crazy, but it's actually been a true blessing for the both of us. We've been very blessed with a beautiful son, and just taking it one day at a time. But that big day is coming soon.
Well, congratulations while I'm at it.
Thank you very much.
So, anyways, I only brought up the radio thing originally. That was a fun little detour. Because how did you end up getting into radio? Did you go to school for broadcasting or something? How did you find yourself in that position?
Ironically enough, I was a personal trainer.
You start a lot of sentences with ironically. I'm just noticing this.
Yes, I know, right? So I was a personal trainer for 15 years, and the reason why I'm saying ironically on this is because did you remember Gunnar and Murphy from TNA?
Yes.
Okay, Murphy is actually Michael Judas, and he lives here in Greenville as well. So I worked with him at his gym that he has here in Greenville for Balance Fitness, and which he's still in the business, still going strong. I was working at his gym at the time, and my boss at the radio station, his wife would come into the gym, and I would train her, but I had no idea who her husband was. And I listened to the station in which he was the program director for, and he was the program director of 2 stations. And so one day he came in on a free session, trained him, and he liked my personality. And that's when he asked me if I've ever thought about a career in radio. And that's when I was saying, well, your wife told me that you were, program director in radio. I was always curious how you got into it, asking the same question, do I have to go to school for it? Do I have to do this? Do you have to do that? He goes, actually, no, you don't have to go to school. It looks good if you do, but if you have the natural talent to do it, you don't need it. It's almost like he grew up. My boss grew up in Iowa, so he was a farm guy, and he believes in homegrown stuff. Homegrown, you grow your own vegetables, you grow everything, and that's what he believes. You can build homegrown talent, and that's how he discovered that I could do it, because when I went in to do an air check for him to cut some breaks and just say some things, just show some talents that I have that got me the job, which one of them was a crank call, believe it or not. And then next thing you know, he goes, I think there's a spot for you on morning radio. So I skipped a lot of the working the graveyard shift and working night shift and maybe an early afternoon, and he shot me straight to morning radio, basically fed me to the wolves and said, all right, here you go, best of luck. And with a pat on the back, but the good thing about it was the guys that were on the morning show loved the wrestling business as well. So they were huge wrestling fans, which made it easier to adapt into the situation. And I've been doing radio now for 10 years.
That seems to be a good year for you. You mentioned a lot of things happening within 10 years. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Just something that struck my mind. The last 10 years for you seemed like they've been pretty good.
Yeah, the last 10 years have been very, very eventful, and it's been a very good journey. And I'm hoping and praying that the next 10 years are just as eventful, and especially with both Tyson and myself looking to get a contract with the National Wrestling Alliance, which ever since I was a little boy, I've always wanted to be a professional wrestler, and I'm sure Tyson is as well, just like we said earlier. And the organization that I knew I wanted to be a part of was the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA. That's what I grew up on. That's what Tyson grew up on. And knowing that there's this opportunity to become potential contracted wrestlers with the National Wrestling Alliance is a huge trip for us, because it gave us an opportunity to get on the Circle Squared to showcase our talent, and not only that, but also to be able to show the fans this is what we're passionate about. This is what we want to do, and we want to perform with the best. We know we're some of the best wrestlers in the world, and we want to prove that on this stage. And big props to Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana for allowing us to have this opportunity to showcase that talent. Big props to them.
All right. I was going to save this for last, but while we're on the topic, that's the whole reason you guys are here, was Circle Squared. So I want to talk about that experience. Let's cut it down to day of the event. Let's hear that story. What's going through your minds?
Oh, it was. I mean, aside from the butterflies and everything, I mean, it was just awesome. I mean, just as soon as we walked in, I mean, one of the things that that I was really impressed with whenever we walked in was that right off the bat they had Chris Nowinski there in a seminar on head injuries and talking about the policies and everything with that. So I mean, you could tell right off the bat that the athlete safety was right at the forefront. I thought that was a really cool thing. And then just the atmosphere of the locker room. It wasn't. You didn't feel like a new guy. You didn't feel out of place or anything. I mean, it had almost like a family type atmosphere. Just you wanted to be a part of it. And I mean, it was, for myself, it was one of the best wrestling experiences I've ever had. I mean, like, it made the desire to want to be in the NWA and want to be a part of that team that much stronger. I mean, like, just I walked out that night, feeling like we had done our job well, but just with so much higher hopes than I had walking in that day, just for the wanting to want to be a member of that, be a part of that team.
Yeah, I concur. And
concur. Now you're using the big words.
you rubbed it off on me.
A thesaurus for Christmas.
I pulled it out of the drawer right here. Walking in and the professionalism of the organization as a whole. The what's the word I'm looking for here? How everything was set up, how everything was done. There's a word I'm looking for, and I can't think of the name of it right now. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but just the fact on how everything was moving at a steady pace. Everything was just state of the art.
Well-oiled machine.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And it, just like Tyson said, like you didn't feel like uptight, like you felt like a part of the family. You felt like a part of the crew. You felt like a part of the roster, and they welcomed you with open arms. And it was a very, very good experience for us to go in, to be able to talk to some of the other talent, to be able to pick their brains as well. Like we talked earlier about, wrestling some of the big names within the industry. Well, these are guys who are now on the main roster. It was great to be able to pick their brains as well. And I know that I feel like I can speak for Tyson on this, where I say one of the nicest human beings in the world and one of the most lovable teddy bears in the world is Tim Storm. One of the greatest human beings in the world. And I can't say enough good things about Tim Storm. And
I was just piggybacking on that. I mean, Tim's a close friend of mine. I mean, he's not the same.
Well, that's good, because I was actually about to ask, what was it like to reunite with Tim Storm?
It was awesome. I got to reunite with him without having to punch him in the head and stuff. So Tim's got a big head to punch on too, man. It was great. I mean, that was. I'm sure if you did any amount of research into me at all, I won the NWA North American title from Tim.
Yep, that's exactly where I was going with that.
Yeah, and that was huge. I mean, that's why, like, this thing now was so important to me with Jeff and I. Because, now focusing towards tag team to get our spot in the NWA and to continue what Coach K did, if we could ever, get an opportunity to win the World Tag Team titles, would be awesome. But yeah, I mean, getting to wrestle Tim, and I mean that went all the way back to the first day that I'd ever gotten to watch wrestling, because it was crazy. The first person I wanted to call was my grandfather after winning the title, and he had passed since then. But Tim's a person who's mentored me a lot, and he's one of the greatest humans walking this earth.
Yes, he definitely is, and that's just a true statement as to the kind of person that Tim Storm is as well. It's just an all-around class act. That is the best. That is the best thing that I can say about Tim Storm, is that he is just a class act, 100% all the way, and just the NWA as a whole, and how everything was a true class act from Billy Corgan all the way down. It was just a true class act all the way, and it was a true honor to be able to be there and to be able to perform, on that stage.
Yeah, it was. I mean, remember that whenever we walked through we walked in the back, and I remember we were sitting there, and we were just still so hyped up because we just finished the match,
right.
And we're looking around. And I nudged Jeff, and I was, look at where you are and what we're doing right now. I was like,
yeah,
I still am a big Smashing Pumpkins fan, and
right.
So we're looking around to our right. There's Billy Corgan wrestling for the NWA. To our left is the 10 pounds of gold. The title we grew up watching, and just looking around the room, and who else? There was someone else that I got Jeff off to the side because dude, this is nuts. Look at the room we're in right now. Tell me this is not nuts.
Right.
And imagine that this thing could come to where this could be a reality and a all the time thing for us. And
exactly. The whole experience in a whole was a true trip, and and to be able to be there around these talented performers and wrestlers that we were there with, and even Luke and PJ Hawks.
Ooh!
Mad props to them. They
I thought you were about to slam him for a second.
No,
we were. But
we want another opportunity at him. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you and act like I'm happy about losing, but
yeah,
I'm
not.
As far as guys, yeah, they were good guys, but yeah, if I could pop one of them in the mouth again and get that win, sure love that.
I mean, we have to get another one, because there has to be a rematch with that.
Yeah.
There has to be a rematch with that, which we would love, by the way.
Crockett Cup. Sorry, I had something.
Yeah.
You hear that, Lagana? All right. We're coming down to the end of the.
My son said his first words. What was that, buddy? Crockett Cup. Did you hear that?
That's amazing.
Oh, wow. I love you, son.
Kid's a prodigy.
God.
Your daddy's boy.
Wow. That's one of the best things that ever happened on this show. I've been doing this 3 years. I can't say that a child's first words being Crockett Cup is not the best thing to happen in wrestling history.
It is the greatest thing in the world, and mark today as my son's first words were the Crockett Cup. He wants to see his daddy and his Uncle Tyson in the Crockett Cup.
Absolutely.
All right. Down to our last real question, and it is the most serious by far.
All right.
Why do you two deserve to be in the NWA?
I think from what we've told you, I mean, our history growing up on the NWA, I mean, with Coach K, I mean, it's our legacy to be the NWA. I mean, that was one of the things that, like, we've got. Our style is rooted in what the foundation of the NWA has always been about. It hasn't always been about, just guys that can stand out there and flex and have a cool one-liner to go home with. It's been about the guys that can get in there and really, prove their mettle inside of a wrestling ring. And that's what Jeff and I have always worked hard to do, and what we've shown and what given the opportunity. I think the management of the NWA and the fans of the NWA be really, really pleased with what we can bring to the table. And there's guys that we want to test ourselves against there.
Right. Case in point on this one. Since I was 4 years old, going to my first wrestling match, like I was saying, the whole card from the opener to the main event is burnt in my brain from the sight of watching with the NWA logos right there on the apron, the same logo that's right there in the GPB studios. Seeing that and being able to perform with the NWA and to be able to be in the ring on that stage performing in front of that audience, not just the audience that was there at the GPB studios that day, but millions of fans around the world who were able to watch this, who were able to see this, who were able to go and vote. Because if you look at the voting, both teams are very well ahead with the yeses. And knowing that we're able to perform for the fans, not just for us, not just for our families, but also for the fans, to be able to showcase our talents to the fans, to be able to give back to the fans and have them love what we did out there, have them appreciate what we did out there, but also have them believe what we did out there is a true blessing, a true statement. As Tyson and I both said before, since we were both little boys, we both have wanted to be in this wrestling business. We have both wanted to make our living in this wrestling business. And both of us have wanted to scour the globe and perform everywhere. And the fact is that being with the NWA is a gratifying feeling of you made it. You finally made it. And that to me, people say, the WWE, nothing bad against the WWE, nothing bad against any other promotion that's out there. But the longest reigning promotion with the legacy and the heritage behind the World Heavyweight Championship, the 10 pounds of gold, the World Tag Team Championship, everything builds around the National Wrestling Alliance. Because yes, it's what I grew up. It's what Tyson grew up on. It's what a lot of wrestlers in this industry grew up watching. And to be in that ring, to be going for a contract to wrestle for the oldest and longest reigning promotion out there is the highest honor that it can be. And to me, that's just as good as winning the world championship. And that in itself is just a huge accomplishment. I mean, I've done a lot of things in my career. Tyson's done a lot of things in his career. But being a part of the NWA, being connected with the fans, being connected to the promotion, the legacy of that promotion, being connected with that and being wrestlers with the NWA is the ultimate goal. And that's what we want to accomplish. And we want to get in there with some of the best. We want to get in there with the Wild Card. We want to get in there with the Rock and Roll Express. We want to get in there with Eli Drake and James Storm. We want to get in there with the best in the world. And we feel the best in the world is right there, the Dawsons. We want to be right in there with the best, and the best is in the NWA.
Whew. You guys make a very good case. But we're just going to have to wait to see what the fans decide. As voting goes on, folks, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I will leave a link in the description to NWA's voting panel. My two guests tonight have made their case as to why they should be NWA's next tag team. Thank you very much for joining me, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. It was an honor.
Is there anything... Oh, wow. Is there anything else you guys would like to plug while you're here before we cut out the feed?
Just support the National Wrestling Alliance, support Tyson Dean and Jeff Lewis Neal with Coach K, Nikita Koloff, and just remember, just as we said earlier, some questions that you asked, all will be revealed.
All will be revealed. I'm excited, very excited to see what's being revealed, and I will, for a fact, be tuning in to see this. Again, thank you guys very much for coming on to the show, and thank you the fans at home for tuning in to the Put Over podcast. You can check us out on YouTube and on bodyslam.net, where you can get all your wrestling news and interviews and whatever else you like from people who've actually been in the business. It's a great little thing we've put together, and I love being a part of it and sharing it with you people. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.